Good morning and welcome everyone to the Business Day Dialogues live in partnership with UNISA Graduate School of Business Leadership. I'm Joanne Joseph, great to be with you today. We're speaking about how to future-proof the country's small business sector. It is such a critical issue, and we know that the sector has been struggling for some time in this country. We also know that Covid-19 has only served to exacerbate the situation. Now, if small to medium and micro enterprises are not given the support they need immediately, this may significantly dent the country's economy. We are looking to them to revive our economy at this point. But what can be done to help those SMMEs adapt to the new situation and evolve during this difficult climate? And are there external factors like trade deals, for example, that can positively impact small businesses at this time? Now, in a moment, I will introduce you to the UNISA SBL panel that will answer these questions and more for you. But first, let me remind you of the chat function that you're welcome to make use of if you wish to ask our panel members a question. I understand some of you have already found it and made use of it, so that's a great start. But let me tell you how this will run. The panel discussion itself will last 45 minutes, and then we'll do our best to dedicate the last 15 minutes of this webinar to your questions. So please make a note when you put those questions down of which panel member you'd like to direct your question to. So let's meet the panel now. Professor Pumela Msweli is Executive Dean and CEO at the UNISA SBL. Welcome, Prof. Professor Neha Purushottam is a specialist in sustainable livelihoods. Ms. Murafe Tabane is an expert in intra-Africa trade and investments at UNISA SBL. Mr. Andile Nobachi specializes in responsible leadership, and Mr. Andre Marion is in charge of digital transformation and innovation at the SBL. So welcome to all our panel members. Great to be having this discussion with you today. I want to start with you, Prof. Msweli. May I ask you to please begin by just giving us an overview of how severely affected SMMEs have been by this combination of factors I've mentioned in the last few months?
Well, thank you, and good morning to Business Day listeners and to everyone. Well, it is very clear now that the COVID-19 pandemic has created a significant economic shock. And we are very aware also that the shock surpasses by far the global financial crisis in 2007 and 2008. And SMMEs have been more susceptible to the external shock compared to the larger businesses. And the severity of the shock is significant, especially considering that in South Africa alone, SMMEs turn over 2 trillion rand, and a significant amount, which disappeared overnight when over 3 billion people were forced into isolation by COVID-19 in March and April globally. And in South Africa, we know that businesses have closed down. It has severely impacted on the hospitality industry, the education sector, to count but a few, as well as the media sector, because print media almost halted when we experienced lockdown.
So, Prof, thank you for that introduction. I mean, that sets the picture for the conversation we're about to have. But Mr. Nobachi, let me bring you in here. You're focusing very much on how to help small businesses navigate the new normal here. What are the first steps you're taking to help these young business people?
Morning, Joseph, Joanne, and thank you so much, and good morning to the listeners as well. The most important thing at this stage is really to equip the SMEs with how to navigate the new normal. But the other advantage with the SMEs is also their size, because at least that grants them some kind of flexibility to really navigate the new space. But at the SBL, what we're looking at is really to equip them with the new skills that they really need. That would really speak to how to deal with the challenges. So that is the angle that we're looking at. Thank you.
Prof, Purushottam, I understand in terms of skills, there are a couple of issues that you need to look at here. There's both upskilling and reskilling that needs to be done. What do each of these two separate processes entail?
I would like to say, Joanne, that to start with assessing the business model in this current situation, innovation, collaboration, and upskill and reskilling. Sometimes upskilling works and sometimes reskilling works. If you have a skill in that area, but say more digitization came up, So you have to acquire the skill for e-commerce or those kind of things. And reskilling, if the industry is very much into shock, because this pandemic has affected all of us in different manner. So I think that depending on that, if reskilling is required, then that is the way to go for it. Thank you.
Mr. Marion, is it possible to solve some of the difficulties SMMEs are facing with technology?
Yes, definitely. As a SME progresses from micro, small, and to medium, what you typically have is a different needs requirement with regards to technology. A number of failures dealing with SMME documentation, etc., things like that. And using technology and also digital skills, you can, for example, improve and increase the level of incorporation of and also assisting SMMEs in growing in that specific space. Thank you.
Right. So Ms. Dabane, let me bring you in here. I mean, I believe you've already kicked off with some important programs in regard to this, including the Rural-Urban Linkages project. Won't you please just give us a sense of what that program is about and what it revealed about the kind of interventions that are required right now? Mr. Bane, have we got you online? Right, I think we might have lost her for the moment. Prof. Msweli, may I ask you to talk to that, please? Because I know you've been deeply involved in this program as well of the Rural-Urban Linkages project. What has it taught you about what's needed at this point in terms of interventions?
Well, firstly, perhaps I should just preface the answer by saying that we have positioned ourselves at SBL to focus on 4 focus areas, and that is business leadership, responsible business leadership, intra-Africa trade and investment, sustainable livelihoods, as well as, I think I've mentioned all of them. Now, the rural-urban linkages is actually our expansion strategy. We are looking at linking urban businesses to rural businesses as part of the economic recovery, because as I mentioned earlier, we are focusing on SMMEs because they are the source of growth for the future. And they've demonstrated growth of over 12% over the past 6 years compared to their business counterparts. And informal trading doesn't count in this 20 trillion I've mentioned, rather 2 trillion I've mentioned. Informal trading makes an estimated 30 to 40% of total intra-SADC trade. And in fact, it creates over 70% of employment in the SADC area. So the rural-urban linkage is really to upgrade small and particularly micro enterprises and capacitate them to participate in cross-border trade. So our rural-urban linkage project has got 3 facets. The first one is just to give a lifeline to rural businesses, link them up with big business as part of creating global value chain and critical mass for these companies to participate across borders. The second facet of our rural-urban linkage is really to create a virtual market, because it's not going to be possible for these rural economies and these rural small enterprises to participate in a global value chain because transport is expensive, logistics might count against them. And the third aspect, which is really important to us, is the business clinic that we're creating to develop some kind of a mechanism to transfer skills that our students would have learned in our entrepreneurship programs, in the MBL program, PGD program, and also to transfer those particular skills as part of assessment. So we are quite excited because we have launched the very first market day in November last year, and it went very well. SMMEs were excited to participate in this. They networked during our physical market day. So we're planning to have these on a monthly basis and eventually to have a virtual platform. pause there for now.
So it sounds very exciting, Prof. And let me bring you in here, Mr. Nobachi, because you've got the details as to how this works from a practical point of view. I'm sure a fair number of our viewers are sitting out there thinking, well, I'd very much like to get involved in a program like this. I'd like to become part of the business clinic. What exactly does it entail? Is it part theory, part practical? What would I experience as a student if I signed up for this?
It would really make sense and exciting for these micro enterprises to really consider the business clinic, because in actual fact, what we want to do is really give our students an opportunity to really put in practice what we've told them in the classroom, the theoretical background that we've given them. When we assess them, we're saying, here's the real time, here's a real life case scenario, here's an SME that is out there at Port St. John's that's really want to get into a wider business market. But they often short in the skills, just forget about the resources at this stage, but just looking at the management skills, how to navigate the new norm. So the plan now is with our students in the various programs that we have got a bundle of programs from your PGD through to the DBR. So we would have given them then all these theoretical skills and expertise in that. Now we want them to apply those to this particular, let's call it a micro business bill that is out there, that has got all these challenges. Will you please then make sure that you give this enterprise an opportunity, help them turn around, help them be able to survive again, to keep afloat. So the way that they do so, this becomes a win-win situation if you think about it, because the students on their side, they demonstrate evidence that they can apply what they've learned in the class. On the other hand, that micro enterprise has been given new lease in life, so to speak, to really navigate the new norm. So the real emphasis is on bring about the real solutions to the real problems that we're dealing with.
All right. I'm going to come back to you in a moment, Mr. Nobachi, to talk about the assessment of these subjects and these empirical experiments that you are encouraging your students to become engaged in. But let me bring in Professor Purushottam here quickly. And Prof, give me a sense, please, of some of the practical examples you have of having dispatched your students out into the field and seen the tangible results of doing that from a very practical point of view.
Thank you, Joanne, for the question. And okay, I'll take an example of one of our alumni who started the business in 2018 November, and just 1 year of business and this pandemic hit. So they changed the business model in certain terms. For example, they look like Prof was talking about rural-urban linkage, because there is sometimes pockets of demands which is in rural area. For example, they have gone to Kurman area on Robiniani Primary School, try to understand. It was into printing business. Normally, it's a printing machine business, hardware business. So where normally big names are there. So how you will go into that market and survive and thrive. So they have tried to find a solution for that. And they looked for collaboration. I think collaboration or partnership becomes very important here. Because I'll just take a quick one African proverb which says that if you want to go alone, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go further or want to go far, then go together. So collaborations are becoming important. So yes, the business, the SME that is collaborated with the big businesses, big names like HP and those, and then they have collaborated with communities so that community is getting employment, and this is becoming a big contribution throughout the value chain.
Right. So you've got some examples of that. Just expand a little bit for me on the issue of collaboration, Prof. Purushottam, because you've alluded to it there. But I'm just very interested to know how exactly you match a small business with existing businesses in an area to ensure that particular demands within that area are met.
Okay, Jen, this is it depends on different business industries or business sectors. For example, and it has to be something we have to, so basically start with basic question, okay, what I can do to add value to my customers. For example, in this particular case, I'm using a case because it becomes easier to understand and apply in different cases. So there was a problem that from villages and from the schools, small schools, the person has to come to the urban areas and buy a product. And that was a seller's market. So if a buyer or there's a business which is providing printer solution at the doorstep of small village in somewhere in the Northern Cape, it is a win-win situation. They are getting it, and plus they are empowering youth there, which can maintain the services. So that kind of, so somewhere around we have to look at it. For example, I'll take another example. For example, like nowadays, government is emphasizing more on local sourcing. So what kind of local sourcing is required? A lot of big companies are looking for suppliers development. So how you can pitch on. So I think that different media houses or different platforms or different business school, higher education institution can create a platform where that kind of engagement can happen.
Mr. Nabachi, let's just tell me a little bit more about this new type of assessment in terms of the way you are now assessing your students. You spoke about dealing with students who've already got the theoretical background, who are then being encouraged to go and embark on a practical project. How exactly do you mark that as lecturers?
Thanks, Jo. Often we do have a set of criteria that we use as a framework to assess, but the real emphasis is really on the integration of the various fields that the students would have taught them, and wanting them to demonstrate that they actually have got a holistic understanding of the business functions. Because what tends to happen, one mistake is students, they tend to look at the business functions as disparate units, and they're not. It's actually one unit. You actually have got one business that you're trying to make work. And all these various functions that would have taught you with, you need to put them together. I often say real problems, they don't come wrapped in a box. You need to sort them out. You need to suss them out. You need to identify what are the real issues at play. So the real competencies that we want the students to demonstrate to us is that they can actually identify the real problem and come with the practical, real solutions to that problem. So the emphasis then is not really to explain and describe and do those things. No, the real issue is, are you able to present a holistic, demonstrable kind of a solution that is practical. So that is the emphasis. Obviously, of course, we'll have then a reference system. We'll have some kind of a set of criteria that we say, because at the end of the day, this is still an academic program. So we still need to make sure that the academic rigors and the other nuances that we need are there. But we marry that with that actual design solution, so to speak. Can your solution stand on its way that really demonstrate that you could help? So it's not really, so we need to see really that micro enterprise out there has been given at least a new life to say, we can actually do 1, 2, 3. So it goes to, I know now I'm just going a little bit on the side to say what should be coming. And your question was, how do we assess that? But what we need to see then is all these functions, are we able, if your solution, for instance, is speaking to the cost aspects, the cost management, can you see that? But can we see that there's integration to that cost dimension, to the actual operational running of the business? So the real emphasis, Joe, is really the integration of all these business functions. That's what we want to see.
Right.
And I'll pause there.
Yes, no, of course. And I think you've given us a very comprehensive picture of exactly what is possible through this program. I'm going to bring you in here, Mr. Bane, because we've hardly heard from you. But I think it's important for us to get the bigger picture of what is possible here. And Mr. Bane, we know the African Continental Free Trade Area has come into play. It became a reality as of last month. And perhaps that's a little intimidating for SMMEs who think to themselves, okay, this thing is happening on a macro scale. I'm pretty sure there's perhaps a little niche for me, but I wouldn't know how to enter that for starters. Can you give me an idea of what sort of opportunities exist for SMMEs under this new trade agreement? Mr. Bane, just unmute yourself, please. All right, great, that looks better.
All right, thank you very much, Joanne. And let me just start by saying that Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, it was operationalized on the 1st of January this year. And I think that it took place at an opportune moment because only 36 countries have ratified the agreement. But it is still a great achievement when you look at it. If I look at some of the major steps which are likely to advance the continent, I find that there's a confluence of factors from the operationalization of the trade agreement in January to the move that the World Trade Organization has embarked on in terms of appointing its Director General, who not only happens to be a female, but is also an African. And if you examine what she has been saying as she's been campaigning for this particular position, even after she was appointed, Joanne, she has always been saying that in terms of how she views trade as a development instrument that is going to bring everybody who is marginalized to the fore. So this dovetails quite brilliantly with what we have been doing at the SBL, in a sense that we've been trying to link rural economies with urban economies. And the market that Professor Msweli referred to earlier on, we had invited a number of people, and of course, one of those people is Vusi from Hammanskraal. Vusi has mobilized his community, Joanne, where they're now producing different vegetables, different type of vegetables. And for instance, what we are also doing when we look at the database that we have right now is that we are trying to include everybody because this growth on the continent has to be diversified and has to be inclusive so that we don't leave other people outside, particularly in the far-flung areas of South Africa. So even those people who are, for instance, producing perhaps vegetables in their small gardens, what we try to do is that we try to link them with the bigger suppliers. Let me say, for instance, there's a person who's supplying McDonald's with potatoes, and you have a person who is producing potatoes on a very small scale in their backyard. We then link that person with this person who is supplying McDonald's with potatoes so that this person can also share in this pie, because ordinarily you wouldn't be able to supply your McDonald's at that level. So it's about volume, it's about consistent supply. So we are also preparing them to try and make sure that they take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. We have a software, Joanne, that we're calling the time banking system. It's COVID-19 right now that we have to deal with. And what we are trying to do is to make sure that we don't leave other people out. So with the time banking system, what we do is that those communities who are helping each other, they deposit time, and of course they can withdraw time at any point they want to. Even those students that we are teaching with those particular skills that they would have acquired, then they take those skills from the SBL and they transfer them to different communities. And in that way, that is how we are preparing these SMMEs to be able to take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement.
I think that's absolutely fascinating what you're doing, because one of the major problems for SMMEs at this point, Mr. Bane, has been access, right? I mean, they hear about these trade agreements on the news. That's about as much as they can reach in terms of getting close to the reality of this. So you're saying the SBL has created a program to actually link small businesses or small or micro enterprises with these large trade agreements. I mean, I imagine there's a fair amount of pressure that comes with having to deliver on that. How does one ensure that they meet the demands of what then becomes a kind of relentless demand for their services or skills?
Well, Joanne, as Professor Msweli mentioned earlier on, that we've got programs at the SBL, for instance, courses on entrepreneurship. As I spoke about Vusi, for instance, Vusi had actually said to us that one of the things that he needs right now is to be able to have a business plan, a knowledge of how to put a business plan together, a knowledge of how to run a business. And that's where we come in as the SBL, because then we give them those type of skills. And those are the skills that will enable them to go out there and make sure that they are run businesses, so that by the time they need to take advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, they are ready. And one of the things that we are also going to be doing with our students, Joanne, you'll remember an issue of compliance is a very big one. Remember what happened with MTN, a big company like that, where it was found to have been non-compliant and it was fined billions and millions of rands, you know. So what we're trying to do as well is that you will find that these students will be assisting them with a handbook of saying that these are the kind of things that you will need to have a look at before you enter into these different markets.
So Mr. Marion, this leads to quite an obvious question. You spoke about the use of technology earlier, and Mr. Bane has actually just spoken about the software, for example, that comes into play. How important is technology in all the linkages Mr. Bane has just been speaking about?
Joanne, in every organization or any SMME, there are basic business components such as marketing, finance, and product management. And for example, as Mr. Barade mentioned, the regulatory framework. Now, to utilize and to move into this environment, you require some sort of skills. These skills, due to COVID, not only due to COVID, we have now enabled throughout the world the issues with regarding to moving into the digital skills environment. When you talk about digital skills, this is a continuum. On the left-hand side, you have the basic upskilling. Okay, and this deals with basic technical or IT skills, such as, for example, using a word processor, sending emails, communication, etc. On the other side of this, you have those highly developed technical skills, which is, for example, a digital business analyst, digital marketing, and things like that. Now, for a owner of a SMME, these skills become very, very important. A tool is only as good as the user of the tool. And this implies that the SBL is moving into the direction in which we can now facilitate the transaction from the legacy or the analog environment into the digital environment. There are many, many tools out there to assist with this migration. The problem is selecting the right tool for the right opportunity and also for the right type of SMME based on what your target market is all about. Okay.
So just still on that question, Mr. Marion, I think it must be fairly intimidating, especially for rural businesses that may not have access for all sorts of reasons. They may not have access to fiber or stable internet lines and bandwidth. I mean, how exactly are those sorts of businesses being encouraged to transact? Are they doing it on mobile phones? What is being taught in situations like that as a kind of solution?
In these type of scenarios, you typically have you have linkages with private companies dealing with these type of solutions. And this enables certain technology restrictions or challenges, like, for example, as you mentioned, low internet access, bandwidth, etc., things like that. There are various solutions out there that you can address. Okay, for example, the situation, for example, for the time banking solution, this is a highly complex piece of software. Okay, and by linking this to technology geeks in the back end, this will then assist those people that do not have the necessary skills. We need to separate business from utilizing technology as a resource enabler. And this is where the challenge comes in. Typically, you find that as SME gets so totally involved with the technology that they lose focus of the original vision and aim or goal of the business. And by utilizing and cross-utilizing private sectors and a number of free tools, a number of free facilities out there, okay, you find that this definitely assists with this. Mobile technology, bandwidth, etc. But as you can see, COVID has drastically changed the landscape. Okay, fiber has been rolled out everywhere. Satellite connectivity is possible. Those components, okay, are all talking to providing an enablement platform to deliver on these type of solutions. The solution is easy. The connectivity solution is easy. What is basically is important is how to use it effectively. And this talks to what Professor Leah mentioned, the upskilling. Okay, it's senseless having a highly sophisticated system while the owner of a SMME does not know how to do basic record keeping. Okay, and this creates the challenge. And this is where the SBL facilitates or should facilitate that skills, okay, and how to use technology to drive this. Thank you.
I think it's quite incredible the kind of skills transfer that can potentially occur through students in the process of their going out to do their practical projects and being assessed on that. Professor Msweli, we heard Mr. Marion there also mention partnerships with large companies, and I know that you've been getting your head very much around public-private partnerships and how those could benefit small businesses. What does the research tell you in terms of that?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, I think one of my colleagues mentioned the importance of collaboration and how collaboration will actually seize the day. In our rural-urban linkages, that's exactly what we want to do. And research has shown that collaboration, where you fill the skills gap and you bring in technology, you upskill, can be very effective if it's done collaboratively with big business. So a lot of research is also starting to show that the source of growth is in these marginalized economies or sectors, such as the rural economy. So a very good example I can give you to address the problem of technology and to facilitate partnership is a recent case where a community in the Eastern Cape had problems accessing technology, and all they did was to join in together and invest in a mast and invest in a technology solution that resulted in the whole community paying something like 30 Rand a month for free internet, not free, for unlimited internet. So what happened there is a true example of partnership where somebody, in fact, it's an entrepreneur from South America who worked with the rural economy. He had the technology, he had the capital, he created opportunities and get carpenters, electricians and engineers to get together from local communities, put up this facility, and everyone had unlimited internet access. Another example is what we are trying to do as SBL. Mr. Bane mentioned an example of McDonald's. If you look at BMW, their steering wheels use goat skin. And how many farmers out there, small-scale farmers, are involved in goat farming? And they can actually take some of their skin and hide, and through a proper training and partnership, upskilling their businesses, they would be strong suppliers for BMW, not just South African BMW. So the possibilities are unlimited. And one thing we found is that entrepreneurs, small enterprises have got such creativity, the amazing creativity, because, they say necessity is the mother of invention, because they solely rely on their creativity. They don't have capital, but they're able to solve their problems by just tapping into their creativity.
That really is such an encouraging bit of information that you've given us there, Prof. I want to bring Professor Purushottam back into the conversation here. And Prof, let me just ask you about this. I mean, you've seen practical projects where people have come together, both the students that you are in charge of, as well as the small businesses come together. What sort of results are you seeing on the ground? I mean, are you starting to see a slow reversal? Because we can't expect this to happen overnight, obviously. But are you seeing in certain areas a slow reversal of this high unemployment rate, of the collapse of some of these businesses or SMMEs that might have been on the brink that are being brought back by this SBL approach to business and supporting small businesses? Are you starting to see a dent being made in the damage that's already been done by COVID and other circumstances?
Thank you, Joanne, for the question. And I think that there is a difference being made. And I think the way you have rightly put is that the process is slow. And it is going to vary from sector to sector. Some sectors are more hit by this pandemic than other sectors. So, but I, like one of the alumni, the South by SNI, I was discussing you about, they are making change. Like they have changed their business model from institutional to individual when the schools were closed. So that small changes is there. Small business by business, if there is 2 more people are employed per machine which they are employing, there is a change, but the change is definitely slow because I'm talking about one company, but another SME similar to that, another difference, another SME, and then we talk about a synergy of difference because the economy or the goodwill, it goes like that. So I see there is a change. Change is slow, but there will be definitely more hand will be required. And that's why I always talk about collaboration.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Nabachi, so just describe this process to me. When a student comes to you, one of your students who's already been educated well on the theoretical side, and they say, I want to look into this program. I want to be a part of the business clinic that you envisage launching in a few weeks or a few months' time. Do they come to you with a business idea? Do they say, I know of this business in a particular area that requires my assistance. I want to help set up this business or support this business or ensure its longevity, as the case may be? Or are you in the habit of allocating particular projects to perhaps keep a greater sense of control over the student's performance in ensuring these businesses survive and thrive?
Thank you, Joe. There's a number of ways that this could happen. First, we often work with the students who are in the pipeline system because that is the part of the curriculum and that is the part of the assessment. But let's go back to your question with somebody who already is our alumni. We do have a platform, we do have our stakeholder management where we work with our alumni, where we get in contact with them. So if out there is one of our alumni who really have got a business idea or who really have got a brilliant way how to go about or how to get involved. So one way of working through this will be through our alumni manager, or even just approach us and just send through an email to me, speak to our colleagues, all that. So it's not a single channel way to approach us. We've got multiple avenues to really approach us. Actually, I'm really excited with that. I mean, with your question, because it hasn't really struck my mind that there could be somebody who's not necessarily a student, but has gone through the process and has got all that experience. And that is the beauty of it. Because this individual that you're talking about would have been somebody who has been out there, have a whole lot of experience that they want to bring to. And also, another dimension is it will also help them to grow. Because remember, we learn throughout. We are continue to learn. So them becoming part of this venture, so to speak, and also give scope for themselves to grow. So yeah, but I do think that what we'll do after this as well, we will communicate with any interested party out there who's willing to join us.
Right, that's great to hear, Mr. Mwachi. Thank you so much for that. Prof, I'm going to wrap up the panel discussion with you, Prof. Pumela Msweli. It was very naughty of me to have jumped ahead because you actually had prepared an intro to just set the scene for exactly what you're doing at the SBL. And perhaps you could cover that in the question or in the answer to the question I'm about to ask you. There are many business programs out there at this point. So there is a wide range of resources available to students who might want to study anywhere. Give me a sense of why you feel your program is unique, and why does you feel that if indeed a student is going to, or potential candidate is going to opt for studies, it should be at UNISA SBL.
Well, firstly, we are unique in our differentiating strategy. We are very aware that the market of business school is pretty saturated, highly competitive, and we are doing something absolutely different because we are focusing on the small, micro, and medium enterprises. And we want to facilitate the graduation of micro enterprises to small businesses, and from small business to medium enterprises, right up to large businesses through this rural-urban linkage. And we want to actually be at the vanguard of economic recovery by focusing on this very important sector. And we envisage that with that contribution, we are not just assisting our SMMEs, we are helping our country to meet its national development objectives. So our business school, we are positioning ourselves to provide SMME leadership to help them with specific skills that will foolproof them for the future. For example, creativity is something we want to really focus on because the world we live in, the new normal, requires adaptability, it requires creativity. We want to hone and nurture resilient skills, time management skills, emotional resilience, spiritual resilience, physical resilience, all these very practical skills that are required to leapfrog into the future. As Mr. Marian, my colleague, said, technology is not enough. Our SMMEs can really offer something unique, and our business school is geared to focus on this particular sector.
Well, thank you very much for wrapping up that aspect of the discussion today, our panel discussion. Thanks very much as well to all your colleagues for the input there. Our panelists coming in from very unique and different angles in order to fill us in on exactly what this initiative is about. So I appreciate all your insights there. I want to get some of your questions now, and let's open it up, and I will put some of your questions and comments to the panel. So please make use of that chat function right now. And let's start with this comment. This is Reratilwe Mutsochi Ramantane, who says, as a major in both law and economics, I was not scared by the use of new technologies, but it soon realized it left a big gap in the supply of labor, resulting in there being a large excess in supply. Students study to just get a receipt, a qualification. And Mr. Marian, perhaps I could get you to respond to that, the feeling is that, young people are very good with technology. They're not afraid of it necessarily, but perhaps it hasn't quite been put to use in the way it could be from a practical point of view up to now, Mr. Marian.
Absolutely. The overarching concept here is something called digital transformation. Okay, and within there, you have the utilization of digital skills. What is typically happening is that when a student moves to university, etc., they have this mass of theoretical knowledge. And to put this into practice, the young people are easily adaptable to the new technologies, but however, leaving university, they do not necessarily have the capital to start off with their new businesses. So what we need to do in this specific case, we need to look at the older generation and bring them into the technical field and to migrate them from the basic digital skill side into the more advanced side. Okay. So yes, definitely. The utilization of the technology is just a tool. How you apply it, within your business model, that is the most important part. A lot of people see technology as the end and the start and the end of the business model, and this creates a challenge because they lose focus with regards to the customer segment. They believe that using social media as the only platform to do marketing, okay, is the only enabler with regards to technology, while there are a number of other solutions out there. For example, direct marketing, mass mailing campaigns, brochures, online flyers. So there is a relationship between the skill set that is built up during the university years and how to apply it. And that is a typical challenge. And I think this is one of the aims of the SBL to breach that challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Marion. Prof. Msweli, a very good question here from Joshua, because I think it talks to a lot of the criticism that universities in general come in for, which is that you get your degree, you've got your piece of paper, you know your theory, but there's very little kind of practical or empirical knowledge that comes with that. And Joshua says, Professor Msweli, would I be correct in saying at UNISA SBL, you yourselves have become more agile and entrepreneurial in your business school's approach and offerings? And if that's true, perhaps you can just tell us what motivated that change, Prof.
Well, thank you very much for that question, because agility is the name of the game. It's the most important skill, or rather orientation. So COVID-19 has forced us to be all agile. And if you are not agile in terms of your structure, if you are not agile in terms of your processes, you'll close down, finish and clap. So agility, we have focused on it. What we have done at SBL in the past 9 months is to streamline our processes, is to restructure our operations, is to even restructure every single aspect of our business. And that process comes with upskilling our colleagues and managing the change. So yes, agility and our entrepreneurial mindset. We are very aware that we have to redefine our products, we have to redefine our offerings, because most of the things that have been taught in business schools are already obsolete. We have to come up with new products that meet new customer needs, because the needs of our customers have changed. Even the profile of our customer has changed. And that understanding, the market orientation mindset, and reorganizing our functions to achieve more interfunctional coordination, getting rid of silos. And that's what we've done in our business school. And that's why we feel confident we are ready to serve those that niche, the target markets that we've identified. And that target market is the public sector. It is the private sector, in as far as these rural-urban linkages can be facilitated. It is also our higher education institutions, because we have a brilliant experience in our products that we have developed, our technological products that we have developed. For example, the way we conduct our online exams. So I really think that agility, if you cannot be agile, you will close down, as simple as that. Thank you.
Yeah, Prof, I think you make some excellent points there. A question now from Maputi, who says, with evolution and changes taking place in the economy, how do we keep up with the changes taking place, especially the fourth industrial revolution and food security? I'm not 100% sure who would be best placed to answer that. Mr. Bane, do you think that is a question I could throw at you, perhaps? Just to unmute yourself, please, Mr. Bane. Got you, thank you.
Yes, the whole issue of food security is a very important one. Hence, even with our rural linkages project, we're also looking at the agricultural sector. We're also looking at the issue of agro-processing. And also when you look at the continent in terms of the type of products that are being exported, for instance, if we look at Nigeria and the exports from the exports from South Africa to Nigeria, we're also exporting some agricultural products there. And I think that it is also very important to highlight the fact that tomorrow the Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, will be tabling his budget in Parliament. And one of the key things that he has said was that he's very concerned about the whole issue of the land bank, because it needs about 7 billion rand for its restructuring. So that is very important, because with any policy failure, it has a huge implication for food security in South Africa. Hence, of course, at the SBL, we are looking at accommodating even different communities which are marginalized. And of course, Joanne, as I indicated earlier, with the time banking system, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to also encourage small businesses in the rural areas to market their product using our time banking system, and also the technology, the software that we are going to integrate into this time banking system. So it's a way of us saying that market your products, mainly which are agricultural products. So that is a way of actually assisting them. And that is how we are setting ourselves apart as a business school, that we are not only looking at big conglomerates, big companies, government, we are also looking at rural areas in terms of how we can assist them.
And I think it's a fantastic initiative for that reason. I want two of our professors to comment on this aspect of it, please, because as an outsider looking in, there's an element of social responsibility that one doesn't often see incorporated into university courses. And perhaps Professor Purushottam, you'll go first, and Professor Msweli, you can wrap up with this thoughts for me. Professor Purushottam, how important is it for universities to actually take on the social responsibility aspect that comes with building businesses in the country, not just saying, well, you're a student, I'm allowing you to come into my university, to participate in the lectures, to leave with a qualification, but to actually evolve the model so that there are practical and positive changes on the ground from a social point of view. Professor Purushottam?
Thank you. I think that's a very interesting question. I'll say that if you do not do what you preach, then you are not in a wrong industry to be. Actually, I'm very higher education is a part where you have to show that by doing it. If you don't show how to do it, then you cannot expect the businesses or the students who are going to be a future business leader or current business leader to do that or to incorporate that. So I think that social aspect is important, because without community, we are not standing in isolation anywhere. And this is another thing which you said, and which is quite important, is that this is not a product system where a student comes for 2 years and goes away. Like the way Ms. Nyobati has said, that we are engaged with our alumni because it doesn't finish it. 2 years is a very small time to inculcate any skills. Sometimes it takes more than 6 years time. The alumni's case I was talking about, 6 years old graduate. But so that is important. Engagement is important, I think. And for us, it becomes important. It's become part of our mandate from UNISA also, that we are in the service of humanity. That's what our university's mission says. So we are there for that. And I think that that engagement becomes critical. It's an important aspect. It's a viable aspect of our whole offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Purushottam. Prof. Msweli, I mean, I think some of the thoughts that Professor Purushottam has shared with us now suggest that the university is taking a far more altruistic approach to its learning processes. But also, for me as an outsider, the university seems to be evolving into an entity that is becoming far more relevant to the lives of ordinary people, even people who might not in any way have had access to a university education or linkages with the university in the past. Huh?
Yes, thank you very much. This is something very important to us at SBL, because if you look at what has happened post-1994, civic society died. And the very power of civic society in establishing businesses and being self-reliant somehow disappeared when everybody just focused on government to come up with solutions. And yet government is really there to create a conducive policy environment. So this particular project and our business school is putting a lot of effort in bringing up that civic activism in society, because we go to communities. In fact, we actually went to one community and they said to us, we want this, this, and that. And we said to them, no, you can buy this and that yourself. You can actually pull resources together. We will only talk to you and fundraise for you if you've given us some kind of evidence that you can actually do things for yourself. So civic activism, I mean, if you look at countries and continents that are very successful, if you look at Germany, you look at China, you find that there's a direct link between education and community engagement. So we want to go back to those values because that's what we stand for. We stand for creativity, we stand for trust, we stand for excellence, we stand for collaboration, and those are SBL values, and that's where our vision is grounded and our mission is grounded around. So it is, in fact, our key performance areas as a business school are community engagement. So what we are doing, which is unique, we are integrating every aspect of our existence. We are integrating our teaching and learning with community engagement. We are saying to students, it's not enough to get a degree. In fact, it's not enough anymore, anywhere, post-COVID-19 to get a piece of paper. What is important is to be human, is to resuscitate that humanness. That is something that was very strong in these parts of the world. And to get students to have that sense of duty, to be the beacon of light, because that's what we are. And I pause there, and I thank you very much to you and to all our listeners.
Well, thank you so much. I think it was a very good way to wrap up. And one of our viewers today, Sinodia Tavira, sent us a message right at the beginning saying, looking forward to learning from the session. And I hope, Sinodia, that for you, it was that journey, a short journey into finding out what this course is about, what it entails, and what is likely to happen in the future as this business clinic gets off the ground. So I want to thank our speakers very much. And I think the single message that comes through, if one could sum it up, is that altruism, community service, civic duty, all of these are very much a part of the business landscape now. COVID has changed entirely the way we think about business, and it simply isn't going to help us or promote our cause to walk around with that qualification, that piece of paper that says you have that degree. So much more is being demanded and asked of us as members of society now, and especially as people who operate in the business sector. What can we do to promote the cause of SMMEs? Could this be the conduit that could be our opportunity to improve the situation of SMMEs in the country? Prof, just a last question from you, Prof Msweli, before we go. To get more information about the courses and what is available at SBL, how can members of the public contact you, Prof?
Thank you very much, Joanne. We have a very active social media platform. We have our website, which my colleague, Ms. Gwiliza, will put forward. And we also have a number of engagements we plan to have. We have thought leadership sessions where we will be inviting participants through your medium, such as Business Day. So please watch the space, participate, and grow South Africa with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Prof. And that is where we're going to leave it for today. I want to thank you, the UNISA SBL panel, for your wonderful insights today and the discussion we've had. I dare say we've just scratched the surface. There are lots more discussions to have on this topic, and I hope we can get into more depth in future discussions. But thank you to you, our viewers, for joining us today, for your excellent discussions and your participation in these Business Day dialogues live in partnership with UNISA's Graduate School of Business Leadership. From me, Joanne Joseph, goodbye, take care, have a great day.